I'm here today with Diane Walburn, and she was the clerk treasurer in Marathon for 32 years, which is a long
Yes.
time. So she's going to share some stories with us today from her career as the clerk treasurer. I'm sure you have some interesting things to tell about.
I do.
That's a long span of time.
It is, and very good people.
Mhm.
I started in December of 1974, and I was hired as a part-time billing clerk. And then in January, the board approached me and said that there would be a opening for a full-time bookkeeper as the village of Marathon was starting to go into a sewer project. So in March of 75, I went on as full-time and still did the lights, water, and sewer, or lights, water.
That's a lot of work.
Yep. And then eventually I worked into a light plant auditor's position.
Wow. Because Marathon has their own utility.
Municipal electric, yes.
Which is unusual.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yep. There's like 36 municipalities in upstate New York that have their
Not very many.
municipal power.
Mhm.
And at that time, electric rates were 4 cents a kilowatt hour for residential. And with Niagara and Niagara Mohawk, they were around 14 cents a kilowatt hour.
That's a big difference.
A big difference. So that had a lot to do with bringing more industry and businesses
Sure. Yeah.
in to the village because of our electric rates.
It's
we
very
offered that.
attractive, So the position that you held is not an elected position.
No, it is an appointed
Okay.
position.
So
by the-
so you were brought on because of the sewer project. But
Yeah.
then it sounds like you stayed a
Yes,
lot longer than
I
the sewer
did.
project.
I did. I was brought in to do the water and light billings the first 2 weeks of the month. And then it worked into a full-time position. And I was appointed as a treasurer for the village of Marathon. And I held that position until 79, and then I went on to be light plant auditor as well, and they hired someone, a new treasurer at that time. And then I went on when the former village clerk retired, then they incorporated the position to clerk treasurer.
I see.
And then I had a deputy
Mhm.
clerk, and I held that position until 2005, and then when the deputy clerk retired in 2005, they split the position. They had I was the clerk, and they hired a treasurer. And I do believe at this time that they've gone back to just the one clerk treasurer.
You mentioned that who the mayor was when the sewer project was undertaken.
I was hired by the first female mayor in the village of Marathon, which was Imogene Passery. And she held that position for 2 years after I was hired. And then Oscar Robinson went in as mayor, and that's when the sewer project really got on board. And I served under 7 mayors.
Wow.
And
Can you say all their names?
yes, there was Imogene Passery, Oscar Robinson, Reed Alvord, David Light, John Parker, Craig Brayman, and John Pittman.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you to remember them all.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were all memorable in their own way.
They were, and they were all great mayors. They really were. They were great to work for. David Light, I believe he ran 3 different terms, so he was the longest running mayor in 3 consecutive terms. But they were all great mayors, and we had great board members. They were made up of usually 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. So it didn't make any difference what political affiliation. They would work together. They might have a difference when they were discussing something, but it was always a mutual agreement.
That's unusual.
It is. We're very fortunate, the Village of Marathon was, to have great trustees and great mayors.
Why do you have a thought about why that is? Because that's not like that in a lot of places.
I know it isn't. I think, to me, Marathon has always been a very close-knit community. And they always are looking for the best, in the best interest of the people. Just the camaraderie is just, it's been great.
So since there's that feeling of community and people know each other, and it sounds like most of them get along, they're willing to put some of their differences aside for the greater good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When the sewer project came in, was there any resistance to that, or did people pretty much support that?
There was a little bit of resistance because there was so many unknowns. And it was, a lot of it was the older people, because they felt like they had gone all these years with just a septic system, they could continue with it. They just didn't want the added expense. But we were working with our engineers, McFarland and Johnson, and we had one engineer, Vern Ingram, that was with us through the whole project, and he was from Greene, New York. And it was his first big project, and it really was like his stepping stone to go on to bigger and better things.
So he had something to prove,
he
something
did.
to show.
He did.
Yeah.
And to this day, I talked to him a couple of weeks ago. We still converse once in a while. And he said of all the projects he was involved with, Marathon was the dearest to him.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Great people.
That's high praise, because he's in the trenches, so to speak.
Yes.
Literally for a while with a project like that.
And with the help of him, we were able to secure a lot of grant money through EPA, Appalachian Regional, the state, more state funding, federal funding. We got like 4 or 5 grants from different entities.
And he helped with
Yes,
that.
he did. He did. Him and I worked very close with all the paperwork on it. And
you know, that you mentioned the Appalachian Regional Commission. I don't think a lot of people realize that this is considered part of Appalachia.
Yes, you're right.
It's kind of shocking, because I don't think we see ourselves that way.
No.
But we are.
No. So we were able to, so we only had to come up with $664,000 that we bonded for.
Which is really not very much in the big scheme of things.
No.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem they had through the whole project was through the archaeology study.
Yeah.
Because down where the treatment plant was being put on the end of Front Street Extension, they ran into a lot of Indian replicas.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Really?
So then they had to bring a group in, and they had to sift through all these bones and things that they found.
Wow.
Yeah. That held up the project for a little bit, but
I imagine.
with the help of the engineer, we were able to
You must have
go on.
hit on a little village or a fishing site or something, which stands to reason, because the river is probably was a great resource for them, like it is for a lot of people now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that was.
And so that treatment plant is still in existence. So
they've had some upgrades, some major upgrades to it. They've only had 2 operators for that treatment plant.
Goodness. Wow.
Yep.
That's quite the longevity.
It went up and running in 1977, and Walt Ackley was the treatment plant operator. And then in, I believe it was 87 or 97, Mike Groot took over the treatment plant.
And he's still there
He's
now?
still there.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Marathon is pretty fortunate.
We are, and we've had a lot of good employees, and they stay. Sometimes the pay wasn't the biggest incentive.
Yeah.
It was the accomplishments that we had. And with our electric department, there was 3 different Brahmins that were involved with, actually 4. There was Bob Sr. and his grandfather worked when they originated the electric plant.
Which was, when was that, do you know? Roughly?
I'm thinking it was 1918 or something like that.
Wow, quite a while ago.
Yep.
Pretty early on.
Yep. And then Bob Bremen Sr., then his son Robert Bremen Jr., and then there was Robert Sr.'s brother, John Bremen, also worked for the village.
All in the family.
Yep. Yep.
Does having a municipal electrical, it adds to the responsibilities of the clerk treasurer,
right,
I would imagine.
Yes. Yeah, because you have your monthly, we build electric once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And we are very unique because we go into Broome County as well, some portions of Broome County.
Wow.
Almost to Lyle.
Wow, okay.
So we do take in a good area.
Mm-hmm.
And like our place here on Glacier Street is the last place in the village with Village Electric.
Mm-hmm. And you probably had someone to go out and read the meters?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
The meters were read on a monthly basis.
And they were employees
Yes.
as well? Wow.
Yep, they were meter readers.
Uh-huh.
And they would divide up the sections of the village and into the town.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't estimate, they were read every month.
There's a lot to be said for that.
That's right. In the wintertime, I know John Bremen was very short. And so back then, we'd have some pretty good snows.
Yeah.
And they'd trudge through to read them meters.
Well,
So.
that's dedication.
Yeah.
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 Where were your offices then?
At 4 Main Street, we were in the old fire station.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
And right on the corner of Main and Peck Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 2000, they built a new building up on Tannery Street, at 18 Tannery Street. Mm-hmm. New village offices and the street department, DPW, to house the garage, the equipment. And John Parker was mayor then, and we had a feasibility, they were going to do a feasibility study, and we talked about it at one of the board meetings, and I remember somebody said, well, what's that going to cost for a feasibility study? And it was like $25,000 or $50,000. And I looked at the mayor and I said to him, we know what we need.
I know.
We don't need to spend that kind of money.
The feasibility of what? Building a building?
And so I remember that we went out for bid on it. And we had set up reserve accounts. And every year we would add a little more into the budget to put it in a CD or set it up in a reserve. We had enough, and we built the building.
Wow.
And David Light was the mayor when we were going to be doing that. And I remember I had audit and control come in from Albany to do the audit. And the one thing that they found is that we didn't go out, or we didn't bond for it.
Oh, well, they wanted you to borrow.
They wanted us to borrow, and I'll never forget it. The night that they read the audit report, and we had somebody come in from audit and control to read it to us. And I remember they said that, and he said, you know what? We're not like New York State. New York State would go ahead and build something, and then they'd worry about how they were going to finance it later on.
Yeah.
We knew what we wanted. We knew what our dollar amount was. And we had it built with money. We didn't have to borrow anything. And I remember the auditor said, but that was money, like $2,000 or $5,000 you put away each year. You could have lessened the tax evaluation to your residents. And I remember David Light said, you know what, our residents would rather have us know that we had the money before we went ahead and built it.
It's a different philosophy, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, to plan ahead and be conscientious about it, as opposed to having a crisis and say, "Oh my Lord,
Yeah.
we need a new building. What are we
Yeah.
going to do?"
Where are we going to come
It's
up
so
with it?
interesting that
Yeah.
was the flaw.
Yeah.
in the audit.
That was
But
the...
that must have made you feel good.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't see
Yeah.
that.
Oh,
as a flaw.
I
Yeah.
remember when I was audited, I'm thinking, oh my Lord. And the auditor kind of raised his brow and he said, well, that's quite a bit of money in that reserve fund. And I said, yeah, that's what's going to build our building.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
I wonder if he'd ever seen that before.
I don't know. Well, I think Triangle did the same thing when
Okay.
they built their fire station over there.
Mhm.
Because I remember when that was on the news,
Yeah.
that was a big item, that
Uh-huh.
they didn't bond for it.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
you
They have to find
You
something.
stuck to your gut. That's true. They have
Yeah.
to find something.
Yeah. So,
It sounds like you loved your career. I'm sure you met some interesting people over the years.
I did. I met a lot of interesting people, all great people. A couple of incidences here and there. I remember this one time, of course, having our own electric. We'd let them go 3 months, and if they didn't pay on their bill, then we would send them a disconnect notice.
Mm.
And then you give them 15, 20 days to respond back.
Mhm.
Well, we didn't hear anything from this one lady, and she just was very adamant. And we had a board meeting, and that night they said, the next morning you send the electric crew to go disconnect.
Mm.
And we'd already knew the family, so we knew there was no small children. That would be fine.
Right.
So they went at 7 o'clock. I went in at 7 that morning and gave them the notification. They went and disconnected it. Within a half an hour, she was right in there. And she said, you had no right to do that. And I said, you've had 15 to 20 days to respond or come in and make a payment agreement.
Yeah.
And you just totally ignored us.
Mhm.
And I said, it wasn't my decision. It was the decision of the village board last night. So you're going to have to take it up. And she was a very religious person. And she just looked at me and she informed me that I had to be one of the biggest witches that there ever was in the village.
Oh, dear.
Well, she was gone a couple hours and she come back with some money, and
Oh.
I said to her, I don't care if you only pay half. We'll make up a payment agreement,
Yeah.
and anytime if you get caught, it's better to come forward
Yeah. She
and
just
work
didn't
out an
believe.
agreement. She didn't. She challenged us.
She just didn't think that when push came to shove that you would actually
we would
do
do
that.
Yeah.
But what was the alternative?
Yeah.
You can't have everybody deciding
No.
the same thing, that,
No.
I'm going to let it go.
No, you got to have revenue to come
Yeah,
in
yeah.
to operate.
Yeah, interesting.
And,
That's probably one of the worst things you've been called, a witch.
yeah, it was.
That hurts a little bit, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it had a little bee on it too.
Oh, that makes it even better.
Yeah. And I just turned and looked at her like, really?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we had quite some experiences. The state police satellite, when I have to back up, when I first went to work for the village, they had a village police officer, and they were in the other portion of the building with us. And John Youngs was our police chief. He'd held that position for many years. And one night when we were having a board meeting, he had been in and gave his report to the village board, and he left. Well, somebody went speeding through town, and he went to go after him. And as he started out with his vehicle, he had a heart attack.
Oh dear.
Right in the vehicle, right in
boy.
front of the office.
Oh gosh.
So he passed away.
Oh.
So then there was the big decision, do we hire a new police officer? Do we get the sheriff's department to work with us? Do we get the state police in? And this went over several months, and finally they came to an agreement. Instead of us having to pay New York State retirement to the police officer, by putting money in the budget for a police car every so many
Sure.
years,
Yeah.
the state police had contacted the village and said, we'd like to put a satellite station in there.
I'm sure that made you
Perfect.
happy.
It did.
Yeah.
It worked out great.
Uh-huh.
And so the state police satellite, it still is in existence down there.
Where is that?
It's down on 4 Main Street, where
Okay.
we were right on the corner of Peck and
Right.
just before you cross the river bridge.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, I'm sorry that he passed away.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it sounds like the outcome was a good solution.
It was
for
a
the
big
village.
savings for the
Yeah,
village.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that worked out very well.
Yeah. You've probably seen a lot of changes over the
I
course of
have.
your career. Does anything stand out in your mind besides the sewer project? Does any change that's happened in the village?
I think with the sewer project, and also we were able to annex the elementary school into the village, where up on Elbro Road,
right.
that was under New York State Electric and Gas.
Yeah. Oh.
And their electric bills were very
Sure.
high. So with a lot of work from the village board and NYSEC, and Larry Leet was a part of that. He worked for the electric department.
Mhm.
And they were able to annex that
Wow.
into the village. So that has saved the village a lot of money. And also the rest area in the southbound lane of Route 81 before you get to Whitney Point,
Right.
that is serviced by Marathon Electric.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Wow.
So I think that the village or the town and the village has been able to grow a lot more because of having our own municipal
sure.
electric. It's been a good calling card.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing in the late 70s and 80s how many homes went electric heat
Mhm.
because it was so
It's
much
cost-effective,
cheaper
sure.
than fuel oil.
Do you know whose idea that was initially to have a municipal electric? You may not.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
somebody had some foresight, didn't
Yeah, they
they?
did.
To think of that.
Yeah,
Because it's a real attractive feature.
it really is. It really is.
Now, you have saved some of the buildings down near the ball fields,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Can you tell us a little bit about
The
that?
civic building?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just a field that was donated by Earl Lovell. There was the Lovell Farms off from 221 East, and he donated a big acreage down there. I believe it was 14 acres or more. And it was stated in there that it should be used for recreational purposes. And then with the help of the Maple Festival, and Walt Hess owned the land, and the Maple Festival was able to help out purchasing an additional 14 acres for that level field.
Wow. So there's almost 30 acres?
Yep.
Wow.
So that they can, they built the civic building, and I'm trying to think, I believe it was the Maple Festival, the village, the fire department, the Legion, the Masonic Lodge, and I think the Lions Club. They all made a yearly contribution of $400 or $500 to help pay off the cost of that building.
It's a nice building.
It is
the
a nice
senior
building.
centers there
Yeah.
too, which
Yeah.
is very nice because that was in that little building.
Was in the Grange before that,
Yeah,
right?
It was like around the corner from where your offices were.
Mm-hmm. Town Hall.
Town Hall. I thought
Yep.
that was the Town Hall.
It used to be the Grange Hall.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was always the Town Hall.
Yeah.
It was a very old building.
Yes, it was.
Very low ceilings. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still there, but
Yeah,
it's not the senior
not
center.
very big. Yeah,
Not very, very, very
No.
small.
it was.
Yeah, it was very cozy when all the seniors got in there.
Yes, yep, yeah, and they had the courtroom
Yes.
was in the back of
Yeah,
it.
they had like a desk across the back with, the paraphernalia for
Yeah.
the court, pictures and so on. Yeah, it was an interesting
Yeah,
conglomeration, but it worked.
Yeah.
But the civic building worked out well.
yes, it did.
What's that building around the corner, the older building that was saved by, I think, by the Historical Society. What's
Yeah,
that building?
the schoolhouse.
Yeah, oh, okay. Is
Yeah,
that what
it was
is?
the schoolhouse.
Okay.
Yep. And that was originally on Main Street, right about where the bank is
Mm-hmm. Okay.
now.
Wow.
And they moved at Katie Foxwell. Francis Lance had a beauty shop in there first, and then Katie Fox took it over. And then they moved it down on Level Field.
It's nice to have
Yeah,
that there. They use
it
it
is.
when the Maple Festival
Yes.
happens. Hopefully, the Maple Festival will be able to come back next year.
Yes.
Yeah.
They did a drive-through
I
this
saw
year,
that,
which was nice.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
But yeah. Yeah.
It's not the same.
No.
No.
No. But I think that the changes in the village have been all positive. And
Has the river, the river gets up very high once in a while. In fact, it's high. It looks high to me this year.
it is.
Has that ever posed a challenge for the village? I'm sure it has.
Yes. In fact, one year, the Maple Festival, they had to cancel the Sunday. They've never canceled the Maple Festival, but they actually had to cancel it because it rained all day, Friday and Saturday, and for safety reasons, they just had to close it. Yeah, the field has flooded before, and even Cortland Street, from about where you get off Route 81 to Greg's Supermarket would flood in through there. The school playground would always be flooded.
Yeah, I noticed this year that somehow I just noticed that
it is high.
It's high, but they had put riprap along there at some point, trying to keep that bank along the road stable.
Exactly.
It comes pretty close.
Yes, it does. And I know John Parker, when he was mayor, he tried to get the Army Corps of Engineers in there to dredge that.
Yeah.
Because it fills up with gravel so much. But under the laws, then you're infringing on the fish, so there was a lot of logistics there that they weren't able to get in there and dredge it like they wanted to.
Maybe someday that'll change, because it really does pose a little bit of a hazard.
It does.
Were you born in Marathon?
I was born on a farm just at the foot of Messengerville Hill.
Okay.
And I was born and raised there. There was 3 of us girls, where there was no boys, so we had to do the haying and the milking. And I vowed when I was a senior I didn't want that lifestyle.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
And you're tied down.
It is.
Too,
You're
aren't you?
tied down.
Yeah.
You really are.
Yeah.
My mom, they would grow sweet corn, and she had a corn stand, or a stand on Route 11 there. That was before 81 was ever open. And she made homemade raised glazed donuts and hot cross buns and homemade breads. She just loved doing that, and she would sell that, and she did very well.
I'm
with
sure.
It. Yeah.
I mean, that would be attractive to me now. When you mentioned Route 81 hadn't come in yet,
right?
So you were around when that came through.
Yes.
Did that have any effect on Marathon? You were probably very, very young then, but were you aware of it having any effect on?
Yes.
On the area?
Actually, where my dad's farm it was on Route 11, 81 cut through, and it landlocked his land. So he had to sell the dairy. And so some of the farmers were affected by that. But for the most part, I think it really did the village a favor. It took a lot of that truck traffic
that's true.
11 off from 11 and on to 81.
It couldn't handle the volume that is now. And the weights of those trucks, that road would have fallen into the river by now.
And the traffic. I mean, I can remember bad accidents on Route 11. Tractor trailers, they'd jackknife coming down that hill, especially in the winter. They'd end up in a house or in ditches. And Yeah.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah, it was. A lot of traffic. And then in the summer, when the convoy would come up through from New Jersey to go to Watertown, the Army for reserves, you couldn't even get out of a driveway on Route 11. It was just constant traffic.
Like a parade. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, I was born and brought up, and then I worked in Cortland after I graduated. The day after I graduated, I got a job in Cortland.
Wow.
And then I went to work at Paul Trinity. And in 1969, there was an opening at Grumman Boats.
Okay.
So I worked there until 74, February of 74, or March of 74, and I took a leave of absence. And then I gave them my notice, and then I started with the village. And
what did
December
you do
74.
for Grumman Boats?
I worked doing the billings for canoes and setting up.
Started out in the financial aspect right out of high school then.
Yep, I started right out at the ASCS office on Tompkins Street, working for Henry Fetz, and that was a good job.
Yeah.
It was a temporary through a feed grain program, and then I went to work at Paul Trinity, and I worked in the accounting department there.
Were you trained in that in high school? Did Marathon have a program?
No, I was going to be a practical nurse.
Okay.
And then this opening came up for a part-time person at the ASCS office. So I took it and ended up staying there. Yeah.
It's serendipity sometimes, isn't it? The
It
way
is.
Our lives go.
It is.
Can go one
Different
way or go
paths.
the other way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it sounds like you made the right choice because
Yeah.
you were very happy. It sounds like, and you
I
did a
was.
lot of good for the community.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
like to me,
enjoyed it.
too.
I was treasurer for the Maple Festival for 20-some years.
Wow.
And I was also involved with the Civic Building Committee. Wayne Fox was the chairman, and I was the treasurer for that. So I worked with a lot of the organizations. And
You probably know everybody in Marathon then.
yeah, just about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of new faces
Yeah.
now and new names that I don't know.
You have quite a few farms that the Amish have come in.
Yes.
And bought.
Yes,
Now these were old farms. These were existing
Yes,
farms
they were.
that were no longer being farmed.
Right. yes.
That's something really different.
It
isn't
is. Like yesterday, they must have had a wedding on that side of town. Buggy started in at 6:30 yesterday morning going by here. And at 3 o'clock this morning, I heard the clickety-click because our bedroom window's open.
Yeah.
I could hear the clickety-click of the horse's
Wow.
shoes on the blacktop
Wow.
going home.
Wow.
So it must have been a long wedding.
It was some kind of something going
Yeah.
on.
They had one last Thursday. And then they get married usually in the month of May and November.
Okay. I wonder why.
And it's always usually Tuesdays or Thursdays.
Because of the farming schedule?
I
you think?
don't know.
Before the planting and then after
Yeah.
the harvest, maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Strange.
I didn't realize
But
that.
they were just one after another,
Huh.
and they were dressed in their best attire.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
fascinating that
It is.
They don't go to the Appleby Elementary School.
No.
They go to their own
Yes.
schools.
Yeah.
So they don't have a big impact on services in the area.
No.
They,
No.
They pay taxes, though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they contribute in that
Yeah.
that way.
And I see, like, sometimes I'll go to Greg's Market and I'll see a buggy parked in there with a horse waiting for them to get their shopping done. And there's a lot of people from the community who give them rides into town so they can get their groceries and whatever other items that they have.
So they'll accept a ride in a car?
Yes.
then?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they will.
Mm.
Yep. I have some friends that they would take them, pick them up and take them, and they would pay them in baked goods and homemade
Oh,
butter.
That's nice.
Yep. Yep.
That's
So-
a good proposition.
Yep. Yep. They do a lot of bartering,
Mhm.
which that's what people
Yeah,
did years
yeah.
ago.
Did your sisters stay in the area? Do your sisters still here?
I have no. My older sister lived in Cortland, and they moved to Avon because of his job. He went to work for Durkee's Bakery,
Oh, yeah.
and they had an opening in Avon, so he went there. And then they wanted to go to Florida, and he went to work for Wonder Bread, and they moved to Florida. She passed away 18 years ago.
Oh,
she
sorry.
was young. I have a younger sister who lives in Messengerville.
Oh, so she's
Yep.
in the area.
Yeah.
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 So your roots are here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My mom was, I was just 30 when she passed away.
Oh, boy.
She
that's
was
young.
54 years
Oh,
old.
dear, that's sad.
Yeah. And then my dad passed 20 years after Mom did. So, yeah, I've lost both of them. And so we were able to buy, in 1987, Dad wanted to sell some of that land up there. So we bought everything above 81. And there's 95 acres. And all but 20 acres is woods. There's a 20-acre meadow there. And I
That's
mow
nice.
that. We built a camp and a pond.
Nice.
It takes me about 4 hours to mow up there, but I enjoy
It's
it.
probably therapeutic.
Oh, I love it. I can get on,
Yeah, right.
just tune everything out.
It sounds like a good life.
It is, and my
Yeah.
granddaughter, she just loves it up
I'm
there. She
sure.
can run,
Oh, yeah.
and she likes to go to the pond and catch
Oh,
salamanders.
boy. She has some stories to tell when she grows
Oh,
up.
boy.
Adventures
Yeah.
with Grandma.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. My daughter already tells her she wants to come, and we went from, I think it was October, and we did see them at Christmas for a short time. And then I've only seen her twice since then, but they came for Mother's Day, and
Oh,
we
that's
got
nice.
together, yeah.
Well, with the vaccination, it's
Yeah.
really made a
Yeah.
difference.
They're both teachers, my daughter and her husband, and so they got vaccinated
Yeah,
like
that's good.
January and February.
Wow, that's great.
And I'm suspecting if they drop the limit, probably Scarlett. She'll have Scarlett vaccinated.
That's good. That's going to really allow us
Yeah.
to live a little more
Oh.
normally again.
I know.
It's been really tough.
It has been hard.
Yeah.
Terrible hard.
How did you're not there anymore, but how did the village offices handle that?
With the pandemic,
Yeah, were they closed down?
they were closed down. They weren't for a while, and then they closed the office, and it was by appointment only. And they do have a drop box. We always had a
Okay.
drop box there that people could drop off their payments to. And I believe they started holding their village boards meeting because that building we put up was just beautiful.
Yeah.
And we had a nice boardroom. And I remember that they said that they were going to be going to the civic building for the village board meetings because they could spread out a little bit. But it was also going to be very limited.
Yeah.
And if anybody had any questions or anything they wanted, they could have. I think they were able to do a Zoom if people wanted to stay home. And
Yeah.
So-
Zoom's been a lifesaver
Yeah,
for a lot of
it
things.
has.
It's-
It has.
Who would have thought?
I know.
It's-
It still gets hard for me to wrap my head around that and virtual.
Yeah.
Like if you make a doctor's appointment, they want to do it virtual
Yeah,
first.
yeah.
It's like
Yeah. Yeah. It's a different.
you
different
can't do
world.
blood pressure, and
No.
you can't. And the thing that bothers me, because that's how I am, I'm thrifty about things. They want to charge you for the virtual, and then they do their assessment whether they want to see you or not. So that means you've got 2 visits to pay for,
Yeah.
which,
I know. I hear you. I've noticed that too myself.
yeah,
Yeah. It
Yeah.
took a little getting used to.
yeah,
But now we're back to being able to be seen in person, which is good.
which is
Yeah,
nice, yeah. But when I was telling you about the police department, what have you, I'll never forget this one time. Of course, the state police having the satellite there, they weren't stationed there all the time.
Okay.
They would come and go, or if they'd get a complaint, then they would work out of the satellite. Well, this one day, this couple come in, and she was in tears. And this guy is holding this rubber boot. And here is this cat's behind sticking out of this rubber boot. And they wanted the state police because they tried to castrate this cat by putting it in. Oh, I'll never forget that. That was one of the worst things. So we would have calls like that.
What did they do? Do you know what they did?
They ended up, we had a vet here in Kellogg, and they called him, and I do believe the cat had to be
that's
put down.
So terrible.
Yeah.
That's a very strange.
It is. I mean, you'd have different calls because people would think the state police were there in your office, you know.
Yeah.
So you'd have all kinds of calls.
That was probably one of the weirdest.
It was one of the weirdest and the scariest things. And then another time I was working, our hours were 8 to 4:30, and it must have been 5:30, and this girl come tearing in the office, and she says, "I need protection. You need to call the state police." And I looked at her and I said, "What's going on?" By this time, she's in the back of the office, and we had a front counter. And she'd come beyond that, and she said, "My husband is threatening to kill me."
Oh, boy.
So I immediately grabbed the phone, and I dialed the state police number. And they had a car right in the area.
Thank goodness.
Yep. And he come in, and I said to him, "You're not to step back of that counter." And it was like the scariest
I'm sure.
thing. But it happened so fast.
But he listened to you? He didn't?
He waited right up front, and they're hollering back and forth, and I'm kind of in the middle. And,
Grace under fire.
Yeah. It just felt really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing when you're dealing with the public, though. You never know what's going to come through the door.
You don't.
And you have to maintain your equilibrium no matter what's happening.
You do. But
you have a way with people. Sounds like you have a way with people, though.
Yeah.
You're able to.
You try to.
Maybe it's a natural ability where you're able to assess things quickly and take care of it.
Yeah. And you have to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
And, we found that out with, like, disconnects on electric, and I would just tell them, "I don't care if you give me $5. Just give me something so we don't have to shut your electric off." And that was one of the things when I was getting ready to leave, that they were trying to tighten the reins more on that. But I knew they were good for it, but they just had fallen on hard times or something like that. And I remember one time when I did get very upset over a client who, through DSS, Broome County DSS worked very well with us. They would say, somebody would say, "Well, we will guarantee payment." And they would, Broome County would send us the money direct, and then we would put it on their account. Cortland County was a little more relaxed, where because they wanted the individual to feel like they had control of the money. So this particular individual was given the money to pay her light bill. And I'm talking $800-900.
Oh my God.
And that's for village electric, but she had electric heat. But still.
It had added up over time.
Yeah.
It sounds like.
And so it come shut off date, and we shut her off. She hadn't come in, nothing. So the first thing we get a call is from DSS. "Why did you?" And I said, "Well, because her bill is now $1,200, but her disconnect was for $800 and some dollars." "Well, we paid that to her." "Well, I know, but she didn't pay us." And the weekend before that, she had her youngest child had a birthday party. She invited the whole class to this birthday party, and I'm thinking she used the money that was supposed to be paid on the light bill for that birthday party. So this social worker was really getting upset with me. I said, "I'm sorry, but there'll be a $20 reconnect fee on top of that." And I said, "I can maybe get the board to waive Because normally, if it was disconnected, you had to pay the full bill,
Right.
what was owed,
Right.
not just a disconnect.
Sure.
I said, I think if we might be able to do that. And she says, well, that's like saying that she's not responsible. And I said, well, obviously she's not if she hires Bozo the clown for her kid. And this person on the other end, the social worker, says to me, who's your boss?
Oh dear. Oh dear.
And I told her,
Yeah.
I said, David Light, and he works at Paul Trinity, and this is his phone number.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to talk to him. I said, okay.
Yeah.
So I hung up from her and I called Paul Trinity and I told David what the conversation was. I was right out front.
Sure.
And so I guess she called him and he told her the same thing.
Yeah.
This woman is noted to not come in and pay her bill when you paid her. Why can't you guarantee payment to us?
Exactly. Obviously, there's a problem if the bill has accumulated over that period of time. There's a
Yep.
money management problem.
Yep.
So why would you think it would be any different
Yep.
when there was a lump sum of that much money going to the individual? I wonder if they've changed their policies since then.
I don't know, and it was funny because some of them, they would guarantee payment to us. They would send us direct, and I'd fill out a
Yeah.
voucher and send it back to them.
Funny.
But
Maybe it was up to each social worker.
I
working
don't, that's what
individually with
I
the
don't
person?
know.
Wow, boy, that's
I don't know, but you know, that woman came to me after I retired. I was down in the grocery store one day, and she came up to me and she said, are you going to be here for a little bit? And I said, yeah. And she says, I've got something for you at home. And she lived on Warren Street. She come back and she said, Diane, she took me by the arm and she said, Diane, I want to tell you, I know it wasn't easy working with me, but she said, you always tried to work with me, and I did stray a few times, but I have something that when I found out you'd retired, I felt bad that I never got a chance to thank you for all you've done for me. And she had like these little wind chimes. It was a butterfly wind chimes, and I still have that to this
oh,
day.
that's lovely, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah, so that made me feel like,
You've made a difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a wonderful story. Yeah.
so it just,
It makes a
You
difference.
work, yeah.
When you have a feel for the people and they're
Yeah.
your neighbors, you know.
Yeah.
And as you said, some fall in hard times. Some people just
I
are
know.
doing well during a period of time.
They
Obviously,
are.
She turned it around.
yeah,
sounds
she
like.
did.
Yeah.
And there's some of them that just, try to beat the system,
Yeah.
and you figure out who that is.
That's a whole different thing,
Yeah,
isn't it?
you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How do you think you acquired that people skill? Do you know? Was it growing up with three sisters?
I think with three sisters, and I also think my father was quite stern with us, and I think it hardened me
Yeah.
to some extent
Uh-huh.
that you got to sit back and look at things too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that when I took my older sister, she went to business school. When she graduated, she was going to Binghamton to business school. And Dad let her drive his car. And she took two other girls from Marathon with her. And then when I got my job the next day after graduation, he said to me when I come home I went for the interview Monday and they said I could start Tuesday. And on Friday, when I got home, he said to me, I've been down, we got to go to Marathon and you got to sign some papers. He said, I picked out a car for you. And I said, oh. So I remember it was a 59 Chevy with a great big fins. It was a boat.
Oh, that's a classic.
Oh, yeah. So we go down to Vern Reese's and I signed the paperwork and everything. And he said, you're going to pay for that car. And you're going to pay for the gas for it. And I said, okay. So I did. And then I was still expected to pay room and board and do chores at night and help with the hay.
Wow.
So a classmate of mine, she worked at Montgomery Ward's in Cortland. She wanted to get an apartment. So we went apartment looking.
Mm-hmm.
So the beginning of September, we were going to take possession September 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So late in August, I said to Mom and Dad, I'm moving out.
Mm.
And Dad says, really? He says, how are you going to make it paying rent and paying the car payment? And I said, well, I got to figure it out. I'll be able to do it. So I remember that morning that I left with my stuff, he said to me, I want to tell you one thing, young lady. He says, if you don't make it on your own, don't come crawling back here.
Wow. Wow, that's tough.
Yep. So, and I got paid at the ASCS office every 2 weeks.
Uh-huh.
And some weeks it would be a little tough. I'd buy a half gallon of ice cream and live on that.
Wow.
But, and then I had this wicked nosebleed and I could not get it stopped. I could not. And so I called Dr. Fairchild. He was the family physician. And I told him, and he said, well, you're living in the city now. He says, you're going to have to find your own doctor up there.
Wow.
Well, we lived on Central Avenue across from the high school now. It was Rose's Beauty Shop, and we lived up over top of it. And Dr. Higgins was on Court Street.
Right.
So I walked up there,
Yeah.
and I walked in, and I was covered with blood. I could not stop it. So, anyways, he ended up cauterizing it. And 3-4 days ran by, and all of a sudden I get this knock on my door, and it's my father and mother.
Mm.
And I said, hi. And Dad says to me, how come you didn't let us know you were having a nosebleed? Couldn't get it stopped.
Mm.
Well, Mom had been to the doctors, and I
Okay.
guess Dr. Fairchild mentioned to her that I called,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me to find somebody else.
Yeah. So they were worried about
So they
you.
were worried.
Mm-hmm. So maybe if things had fallen apart,
Yeah.
maybe your father wouldn't have stuck to his guns.
Right. I'm thinking so. And then my younger sister, she graduated in 70, and she got a job in 69 at working at Kentucky Fried Chicken, and they bought her a car.
Mm.
She didn't have to pay for it.
Uh-oh.
And then, so that, I didn't think too much about
No.
that. Well, then she was accepted at Morrisville to nursing school. So they paid for her tuition to go. And my mother called there. She was dating a guy, my sister was. Mom and Dad really didn't think too much of him. And in October, she hadn't been home. She wasn't returning Mom's calls or anything.
Oh, dear.
So she finally called the school. Well, come to find out, she started in August. She quit the end of August.
Oh my goodness.
And Mom got a hold of Bill's parents and come find out they'd gotten married.
Oh my goodness.
So Mom and Dad lost out on that
Wow.
tuition for that
Wow.
semester. He did take the car back and he finally sold it.
Yeah. Wow.
But,
That's quite a different story.
Yes.
Different.
yeah, and after
Avenue.
my mom died in 76, of course, the last 2 weeks that she was alive, she lived with us, and I took care of her. And Delane was 2, and I remember that Dad would come over and take his meals here and what have you. And he said to me one day, he says, are you going up and taking the peas out of my freezer? And I said, Dad, you know I don't like peas. Well, it was my sister was taking food out
Oh dear.
and feeding.
Oh boy.
But at that point there, after Dad started coming here, he would come for meals and then go back home. And he did that until, I believe it was 94.
Oh,
He
quite a
moved.
long
We
time.
had to, we had to bring him here because he was diagnosed with cancer, and he lived 2 years after he was diagnosed. But he wouldn't go to my older sisters.
Mhm.
He wouldn't do anything with my younger sister.
Mhm.
So
He
I
would-
think it was the respect,
Yes.
and I didn't
Yeah.
go crawling home because my
Right.
sister ended up marrying. My younger sister ended up marrying that guy
Yeah.
after she quit school.
Uh-huh.
They had a child, and then she got to running, and Dad bought the house for her in Messengerville.
Oh dear.
And he paid the insurance. He did all that.
Wow.
But I never asked for anything.
Yeah.
Never asked for anything.
You were the responsible
Yep.
one. Yeah.
So I think it made a better person out of me.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, also resilient too. That
Yeah.
you took it to heart that
Yeah.
you had to rely on
That's right.
yourself, and
Yeah.
you did it.
Yeah.
You rose to the occasion, whatever
Yeah.
whatever was presented.
yeah.
It's a good lesson.
It is a good lesson.
Yeah.
I had to work for what I
Mhm.
wanted. And that's what's wrong with a lot of these kids today.
Yeah.
And I have a niece that they'll say, well, I didn't have this growing up, and I want my kids to have these sneakers and this and that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not teaching them the value
No,
of things.
and it's too easy. It's quantity, but it's also how easy
It is.
they seem to appear out of
Yep.
nowhere. There's no cause and effect that
No.
these are $150 sneakers.
Right.
And you have to raise $150
Right.
to pay for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's on a different level. Like I said, that resiliency or that fortitude or that that oomph, whatever inside
Mhm.
yourself. How do they build that when they haven't faced adversity? When
Yeah.
things are paved.
That's
for them?
right.
It's paved for them all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
I know that there's a kind of a myth that in society now that anybody can be whatever they want, and you've got to win at all costs.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And not everybody can be what they want, and you
Mhm.
don't always have to win.
No.
Sometimes you learn by failure, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's true.
so
It's very true.
And you build resiliency out of failure.
You do.
But that fear of failure
Yeah.
makes you hold back and not do a darn
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of a vicious cycle,
It is.
isn't it? Yeah.
My daughter, she was an only child, and we were married almost 9 years before she was
Mhm.
born. And then after I had her, the doctor said no more.
Mhm.
And so she could have been given everything, but she wasn't. I remember one time when Chappell's was having a sale, and she wanted these Reebok sneakers.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
they were the
Yeah.
rage, and
Mhm.
they were a lot more money. And
Yes.
I was used to buying her Skips from Montgomery Ward's
Sure.
for $9.99.
Uh-huh.
So I said to her, if you really want them, you got to babysit and earn the money. I'll give you the $10, and anything over that,
Right.
you're responsible for it.
That's smart.
So she
Yeah.
finally got enough, and she said, will you take me to Cortland?
Mhm.
And I said, yeah, on Friday night we'll go to Cortland. John was working at Paul Trinity nights, and we used to go on Friday nights to Friendly's. He'd come over on a supper hour,
Mhm.
and we'd have dinner together. And so we got up there to get him, and then she said to me, she said, Mom, I don't think I want.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Yeah.
Forking over that much money.
Yeah.
When,
Yeah, she had
when
to
you know
think
the
about
value. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good
Yeah.
lesson. That's
Yeah.
that's how kids learn, isn't it?
It is how
You
they
know,
learn.
And it's no guarantee of success. It's
It
no
isn't.
guarantee of a perfect
It
life.
isn't.
But on the other hand, it gives you a better shot
It
at
does.
surviving, I think.
Balance.
Yeah,
And she's
balance,
doing
yeah.
the same thing with Scarlett. She's only 5.5,
Mhm.
but she told some
That's
mark to
great.
Mama, and Delane said to me, Mom, she says, Jason and I both teach. We see spoiled brats
Mhm.
and like that, and she's not going to be a spoiled brat.
Good for her.
She
That's
said-
marvelous.
We won't have.
Yeah. So your dad's wisdom
Yeah.
went to
Has-
you,
and
now
then
it's
to
passed
her.
on. Now it's going on to another generation. So
Yeah,
that's
and
it.
Scarlett's an only child,
Yeah.
so, she used to say to me, well, Murphy gets 2 or 3 Cabbage Patch dolls, and I said, that's fine.
Mhm.
You're not going to get one.
Oh, it's a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, and she has good work ethics.
Yeah,
And I
which
think
is a whole
that's,
nother thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They kid her, the janitors do, that they're going to charge her overtime because she stays. She does her lesson plans
Mhm.
Friday night before she leaves school, so that if something happens,
Uh-huh.
she's got her lesson
Isn't
plans
that
for the
something?
week.
Where does she teach?
Trumansburg.
Okay.
She taught special ed for maybe 10, 12 years, and then there was an opening for 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in September she would start her 22nd year of teaching.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Has she been at the same school
Yep.
all this time?
Mhm.
Wow, that's a long career
Yep.
in school.
Yep.
Does she live down there?
She lives in Interlake, and they
Oh,
live in
okay.
Interlake, and so
Not
it's
too
only
far
7 miles
Yeah,
away.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's nice.
yep. So they both, he's athletic director, and then he teaches PE there.
Mhm.
And so Scarlett went to South Seneca for pre-K last year, but she's going to Trumansburg this year for kindergarten.
Nice.
And they've been very lucky that they've been in school all year.
Oh, that's unusual.
Yeah.
There haven't been too many schools that have been able
No.
to do that. So
No.
that's wonderful.
No, so she's happy with that.
Mhm.
Get through this year. So, yeah.
Well, final words. Is there anything that pops into your head that you want to share that we haven't talked about?
I can't think of anything other than I had great people surrounding me at work that worked with me. There was only one other girl in the office with me, and she came in 78, 79, and then she retired in 2005.
Wow.
And so they're on their second clerk treasurer since I left in 2016.
You don't see that longevity anymore,
Mm-mm.
regardless of how good the office is.
Yeah.
It's a different type
Yeah.
of philosophy.
No, I just would like to see the community continue to grow and everybody enjoy the community and the people surrounding it. Because some places you go, they don't even know their neighbors or anything.
I know.
And
It's a beautiful
sad.
spot too. Aside from the sense of community, the scenery is just gorgeous when you go up on the hills and look back down through the valley. It's just really
It is.
pleasing. It's nice to see it.
Yeah.
It's soothing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
It is. And I'll tell you, Walt Grunfeld was a big believer in this community and trying to keep people together.
And he did. He really did a lot of good, didn't he?
He did
Yeah.
do a lot of good, and he's missed by so many people.
Yeah. He set the tone. He set a good tone.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Something to aspire to. He was quite the fellow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marathon has a lot of history behind it.
It
So-
does. It's had quite a few
Yeah.
different types of periods of time and
Yeah.
different industries that have come and gone.
Oh, yes.
Some really large characters,
Oh,
individuals.
Yeah, Grumman Boats. I'll never forget when they announced that they were closing their doors.
Oh, it's devastating.
Oh,
isn't
that
it?
was so
Like
devastating.
a death in the family,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Oh, I really was concerned with the community because it was so many local people that
Right.
worked there.
Right. They're back in business. It's not
Yes,
the
they
same,
are.
but
No,
it's-
but they are back in
yeah,
business.
and they're doing well,
Yeah.
from what I hear, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got that rope. Is it a rope?
Yeah,
company?
E.O. Wood Braiding. Yeah.
That's grown. Hasn't
Yes, it
Yeah.
has. And Square Deal Machining.
Oh, yeah, Square Deal. Yeah.
That has tremendously helped. They were just that little block on the corner
Yeah.
there by the Kilowog Bridge.
Right.
And
yeah.
they've really expanded, and I see tractor trailers with Square Deal Machining on them.
It's nice to see.
It is.
I bet the point that you made earlier about the cheaper electric rates probably had something to do with the
Big
ability
incentive.
of these companies to not only be here, but the ability to grow as
Yes.
well, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So, yeah, you were down, but you're not out.
No.
Because you've got, that's rare for a town this size, a village this size to have that kind of industry
Yeah.
growing too.
Yeah.
Which is, knock on wood.
Yeah,
It's
it
a good
is.
thing.
It's growing, and it there's 2 schools. They're maintaining very well. The village, they've got a little water problem because we had a break, and there's 2 lines that go under the river. There. One is right by the bridge, and one's further up.
Okay.
Well, the one by the bridge broke
Uh-oh.
this November, December,
Wow.
and we were without water for
Uh-oh.
a week or 2.
Wow.
Had to boil water, and they've got it running under one, but they've going to have to raise the rates, and they're going for grant money, and of course with the pandemic,
Yeah.
everything was on hold, and so I'm hoping that they can
Yeah.
get that back up
That's a big
because
project.
good water
Oh,
is
yes, yeah.
prime.
Absolutely. We take it for granted until
We
it's
do.
not here.
When I first went to work for the village, our water, we got it from Freetown, from the springs up there, and it was all gravity fed with a pump.
Wow.
And then they finally got some wells in the village. They drilled a couple. One of them was sulfur water, which wasn't good. And then they did one on level field, and that didn't pan out. So their water has really improved. Yeah, I used to kid them when my gray was coming in, and I said, I think it's the village water. It's all that chlorine you put in. It's taking the color right out of my hair.
They probably didn't pay any attention to you saying that, did they?
So, yeah, we used to have some good times. And I remember when the state police were in the one next to us, and Ray Homer was
Oh, I remember Ray.
state trooper.
Yeah.
And I always made cakes for everybody's birthday within the village,
Wow.
you know, the village office.
You were that
there.
lady.
Yep. So we were having a cake, and then Ray says, well, my birthday's coming up. So I said, okay, I'll make you a cake. So as a gag gift, I made a cake, a regular cake, but then as a gag gift, I took this piece of foam, about 8 by 8, and covered it with chocolate frosting. Looked perfect. And he was always saying, oh, I can't eat this or that because I'm on a diet. I can't fit in my uniform. They're after me. So I took it over and put it over on their back table. And then we opened the door a crack, and when he came in, there was this cake there. And we watched him, and he took a knife, and he kept trying to cut into it, and he couldn't get it.
Oh, that was mean.
Finally, I said, we wanted to save you the calories, but here's the real deal.
Did he figure it out, or did you have to tell him this was not the real
He couldn't figure out why he couldn't get into it. He says, I thought it was a sponge cake, and I said, it kind of was.
What a letdown. Oh, my goodness. Oh, that's funny. Oh,
yeah, I was the
yeah.
prankster sometimes, the jokester.
It must have made a nice atmosphere, though.
It did. It did.
Lighten
It
things
broke
up.
it, yeah.
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 I bet you really missed when you retired.
I did. I missed the contact of the people. I really
And they
did.
missed you, I'm sure.
Yep.
They missed you.
Oh, I still have people saying I miss you in there.
Yeah.
But I did, I got done in 2006. And then Delane was working nights and weekends at Americana Winery. And she said, Mom, they need a greeter over there, and you'd be perfect for her. So I was hired as a greeter, and I would work special events over there.
Wow, that's different.
And then I went on into doing wine tastings for people, telling them about the wines. And I enjoyed that.
I bet.
I got some good tips
I bet
because,
you did.
you know, it's funny.
Sure.
But anyways, so I worked over there, and then when John's stepfather passed away in 2008, his mother was alone, and so I would still work special events, but I wouldn't work during the summer because I did a couple summers and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then she passed away in 2015, and I said, a trip over.
Yeah.
Of course, Delane was married by then, and I could stay with her, and that was only 7 miles, so I didn't mind that. But I did enjoy that, and it got me out amongst the people, you know.
Yeah, you don't realize, well, you probably do realize how much you miss it, but when you get back into it and you say, oh boy, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
This is nice.
Yeah, it was good to see the people. And you would run into some people that were here from the village, you know.
Well, I enjoyed meeting you and talking to you, and this will be a great resource for the Historical Society, all that history that you shared with us.
Yes.
Yeah, you're quite the gal.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.